call center, so that when that lead came in and the half-life of that lead is only 5 minutes, you can have that lead immediately serviced as opposed to 3 hours later from the person you're selling it to. So what we're starting to see is people starting to get a little bit more creative as the top of the affiliate world has gotten more crowded.
That's great. And do you guys want to comment on that at all?
No, I agree with it completely. There's a lot of Me Too undifferentiated companies out there, and there's a lot of great examples of companies that have focused on specific verticals and then created innovation and a great opportunity. You take, for example, paid search software, the Marins and Ken shoes. Well, there's a company in Austin, Texas, called Lucent that has focused specifically on e-commerce for paid search, and they've just been ahead of the curve for the last 5 or 6 years, and they have a very differentiated approach and more appealing value proposition to their customer base.
I guess I would just echo a lot of what Nadim said. I think having talked to lots of investors or buyers of these companies, the thing they're most concerned about is some of these have these, just meteoric growth phases, and there's lots of examples where these companies have also crashed later. So trying to find some form of differentiation that's sustainable is really important. And I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to investors that we've looked at, this sector, we've looked at direct online marketing, and I've looked at 100 of these, and I can't tell the difference between any of them. So that's the challenge, is finding something that's truly differentiated, and then how can you make sure that differentiation sticks around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, which is very challenging at the base stage of that.
Are there ever cases where you are exposed to a company brought in and you realize that they need to have this differentiation and you're helping sort of guide or mold them, advise them in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, an example of a deal we did a couple of years ago was a company called True Bay that we sold to Bankrate that did a lot of auto insurance lead generation and direct marketing. And they had a great business, but I think they didn't really have the technology platform that allowed them to make this a sustainable advantage. Management team did a great job kind of focusing in one vertical and really rolling out some interesting technology, and that led to a great exit for Bankrate. Not only that, the business has grown tremendously inside of Bankrate, which I think gives the entrepreneurs and everyone involved in that transaction a lot of credibility as they start new companies and try to sell. I would say that's actually the norm rather than not the norm.
Right. And then when we look at differentiating factors, one of the most prevalent ones that I hear about a lot, and I've heard from you guys as well, is the impact of social media and people trying to, direct response chasing social media and trying to figure out how that works. I know you guys have done some deals in this space as well. Mike, how does social media change the equation in terms of brands wanting to have a direct relationship versus some kind of intermediate relationship?
Yeah, I think it really has to do with speed. So if you think about the world before social media, my view of what typically would happen is a brand would go to their agency, they would come up with some type of campaign they want to run, they would run the campaign, and then maybe there'd be some market research to study the effects of that. It's a pretty long process, right? That's months. What social media has done is allowed consumers to immediately give feedback about things they like and things they don't like. I would also lump in that category a more enterprise-level solution called Voice of the Customer. So there's some really interesting companies out there now that are working directly with brands so that consumers can give feedback very quickly about what they like, what they don't like. And so the story I hear now is the market research firms come in to give their 3-month update, and the C-level suite says, yeah, we heard that the day we launched the campaign, and that's why we made these changes. So I think social media has really driven that, and now the brands really have the tools to go direct to consumers. And fundamentally, if you're a brand, you're trying to build a brand, and the best way to do that is have direct interaction with your consumers. And so I think that's really accelerated. I think the issue with social media is it isn't necessarily an enterprise-level solution right now. So there's other technologies coming in to help fill that void, closing the gap, and getting that information quickly.
And then, Phil, how is that, and just overall, some of the other channels, PR, et cetera, how have they become blurred over time from where you're sitting?
Yes, and I don't disagree that the social solutions out there are not yet fully enterprise, but I do think that social media is a different animal because it does cut across all these silos and is an enterprise-wide solution, potentially. Back in 2008, I sat down with Kevin Barenblatt, who is the founder of Context Optional, one of the early players in social media management, and we charted out who would be the potential acquirers of the company in a few years, and it was really a diverse group of potential acquirers. And the reason for that is simple, that social impacts marketing, so you have brand response and direct response, PR. In fact, one of the MMS players out there, social media marketing software companies, originally was a PR company, and then they built their own platform that they now